I'm Jen Cumberworth, and I handle the education and community engagement here at the Hult Center. And today I'm talking with Adam DeVries, our Director of Ticketing Services. Hi, Adam. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Jen, it's my pleasure.
It looks like you're in the lobby of the Hult Center currently.
Yes, the beautiful lobby. It's a privilege to still be here. We have been closed to the public for quite a few months now, but we do still spread out in the lobby here. We've been still doing ticket operations in the building for reduced hours, but still being here. So it's still a lovely place to be able to be in the building.
I know, it is so nice to go in even when it is empty and you're like, okay, someday soon it's coming back.
Someday, yes.
Well, cool. Well, I'm excited to hear about all that you do. So we're going to kind of run through the list of questions, and then if anyone has any questions, they can write them in the chat and we'll address those at the end. So just kind of kicking it off, I know things are a little bit different right now, obviously during the pandemic, but if you could kind of give us an overview of what your daily tasks are and what sort of special projects you get to work on, basically what your day-to-day work life looks like.
Sure. So yes, day-to-day life is a little different now than what we're used to, but in normal times, we usually spend the beginning part of the day checking in with all of our promoters of all of the shows. So usually by the time we come in, because we're on the West Coast here, we do a lot of work with promoters all around the country. So usually by the time we come in, we have a few emails and communication to do with our promoters that are all over the country. They look to us for consultation on, what are patrons saying about the performances? Are people excited for this? What are the popular seats? Where do people want to sit for these shows? So that they can take that into account and make decisions on pricing for future events, adjusting the pricing for tickets based on sales that are going currently. So usually take that time in the morning to, again, check in with those promoters, including our resident companies here, our local promoters on the events that they have coming up. They'll ask us what to do as far as promotions, discounts, additional offers. And then we kind of spend the rest of that morning putting all of that into action, building those things, as well as any additional new performances that have been recently booked. So we try to get as much of that done before we open to the general public, which happens at 12 o'clock noon.
So not to interrupt, but that seems like a lot of work to do in the morning. Like when it's normal times and you have a lot of different shows, like on average, how many different promoters would you be communicating with?
Sure. So we have a lot. We do have a lot. You're absolutely right. It doesn't happen that we connect with every single one of them on a daily basis.
Okay.
And usually it's a quick email back. They say, hey, we want to put a $5 off coupon for this section. And we build it, get it done, it's out of the way. So there's a lot of things that we can do very quickly. And generally, depending on when the event is, if it's an event that's going on sale soon or an event that's happening soon, those are usually the people that we would be in touch with, in contact with more at that time. So other events that are just kind of cooking along or just going on sale, normal sales, we don't really connect with on a daily basis for those promoters. But yeah, as things kind of come that are more in our near future and are more popular at that time, that are right in the minds of patrons, those are usually the shows that we're checking in on. So yeah, so all of those things that we do in the morning, we then have staff that reports to work about 15 minutes before noon, and we usually have just that 15 minutes to impart all of the information, anything new for the day. We have a quick huddle with our staff to say, hey, this show's going on sale. There's these new promotions, discounts. If this person calls, we told them they could get, have this exchange. We've made the preparation for them already. You just have to take care of it when they get here. So It's a nice, quick moment for us to check in with the staff and make sure that they have all the information that they need. And then throughout
rapid fire,
rapid fire, yeah, gives them an opportunity to ask questions really quick, things that we may have forgotten, and to check in and make sure that they understand what the tasks of the day are going to be. And then, yeah, throughout the day, we are in constant communication with our patrons, both for people that are calling in to purchase tickets and people that already did purchase tickets, but just have follow-up questions for what to look for at the events. And I purchased tickets here. You know, what does that mean? Where actually are my seats, and when do you recommend that we show up? So a lot of clarification for what to expect when they attend that show.
Yeah, and I mean, you obviously have to be super knowledgeable about both of the spaces. So yes. I'm curious, in your opinion, what are the best seats in the house?
Oh, and you know that's the popular question that we get with every single show.
I was going to say, is that the question you get the most? Like, give me the best seat.
Absolutely, the question we get the most, and that's true for any box office that I've worked in. We always try to turn it back to our patrons, because the best seat for me may not be the same best seat for you. So the question always is, how do you like to experience this art? It again also depends on the performance. When we build shows, when we're in communication with our promoters, determining what those best seats are, what those top price seats are, is different for every show. So when you have just a comedian or a rock concert or something like that, those front row seats, those are going to be the prime seats. You want to be right up close, make out their facial expressions, feel like you're right in the middle of the show. But for something like ballet or dance, or something that has a lot more theatrical components to them, you want to be further back. You want to have a little more, as the seating area slopes, you get a little bit more of that elevation, so you kind of get a better overall picture of the complete stage. If you get too close, you kind of have to look left and right to really get in. So for those shows, those front row seats are actually the cheapest.
Interesting. So when you say
unique experience, to be up there.
Build a show, is that what you mean? Like looking at what type of performance there is, and then determining the high price seats? Like that's what you mean when you say build a show?
Yeah, when we're consulting with the promoter, generally they come in with a budget and say, we need this many seats at this price level, this many seats at this price level. And so we take into account what type of show it is, and however number of seats that they need to sell to try and come up with what is reasonable to charge as the best price seats. Our ballet and symphony and Broadway shows mostly have a standard seat map that we use year after year, because while the specific content might change, that theme, that type of event is pretty similar for each.
Oh, that makes so much sense. So, so then I know I keep interrupting, but as you continue on with your day and you're open to the public, and you're dealing with customers on the phone or in person or digitally, what does the rest of your day usually look like? And then also, what does it look like when we have a show?
Yes, yeah. So that's kind of the part two of the day, or the end of the day, is when we get after we close at 5 o'clock. We have this little break, and it's a nice opportunity to try and catch up on anything else that has come in during the day when we have been focused on our customers and our patrons. So anything else that we need to catch up on and answer, either to marketing. We get requests for lists of patrons, give us the people that purchased these different events. We'd like to send them an offer or a deal for this other performance that meets exactly what they like to see. So we catch up on those things, and then the night of the show, we get ready for the show coming in, making sure that we have all of our will call set, which are people that purchase tickets in advance and are going to pick them up at the box office. So we make sure that that's all organized so we can handle those folks as they're coming in, make sure we take care of everybody, and get our sales ready for people that want to purchase at the door. And then into the performance, you know, it's a crazy 45 minutes of, you know, trying to get 2,500 people through those doors.
Yeah, or more, right? If we have
Or
two
more.
shows.
If we've got both halls going, yes, it can be very busy, but it's a lot of fun. It's so fun. The energy in the room is just great because people are so excited for the show. So it's very energetic. And then the biggest responsibility that we have as the box office is as soon as a performance starts, as soon as a performance, most everybody's in. We don't expect anybody else to be purchasing tickets. We run what's called a box office settlement, where we put all of the financial information, how many tickets we sold, and any expenses that we charge against that show have to go into a whole box office settlement report, which then goes to our booking department for them to settle with the performance itself, with the promoters.
That's like so much. I mean, those days when you have shows are really long days, I imagine.
They can be long days. You know, it's good for the staff. It's good for us to have the staff that we have to be able to share in those responsibilities. I do have an assistant box office manager, and we will trade on and off those shows. There are big shows, you know, those big Broadway shows where it's all hands on deck, and we're here for the run of that show. But we do try to have a balance there as well, that if you worked during the day, you know, you've got the night off. And if you're going to work the show, you know, take the morning and the afternoon off. So we do try to do a little balance there when it's possible.
Yeah, but I'm always so impressed whenever I go to shows and just seeing so many people in the lobby, and you guys are like always so kind and like patient with people, and it's always, I admire it. It's very impressive.
We try, right? We try.
So you have a lot going on as the director of ticketing services. What would you say is the best part of your job?
The best part of my job is, you know, can also be the most difficult part of my job.
Which is the next question. So we can tackle both.
The best part is that every week is something different. Because we are a performing arts venue, we're lucky enough to have the symphony, the ballet, Broadway, comedians, rock concerts, you know, radio productions. So there's something that's really great about having that variety. But as I said before, just feeding on that energy of people that are so excited to come to the show. The great thing about being in the box office is we get to be there with them at that very first moment that they're excited to come see the show. Maybe 6 months before the show happens, but they're on the phone with us or here in person, just super excited, telling us their story. This is a gift for, you know, my parents. It's their anniversary, so I'm getting them these tickets. Or, you know, this is a Christmas gift. It's a big surprise. Or, you know, I've been waiting for years for this specific show to come to the city, and, you know, they're first in line to get it. So that's really special for us as far as the box office is concerned, to actually be there and help make their dreams come true.
Well, really, I'm sure you get to hear so many stories because everyone's connection to the venue or to the arts in general is so personal, and you guys are like the first point of contact in terms of their experience. So you kind of have to be a people person to be in your role.
You kind of do it. It is important. Yeah, it is important. That's the main point of our job. We are the forward-facing representatives of this organization. So yeah, it's important for us to make sure that we're representing not only the Hult Center, but the city of Eugene in a positive light.
So you said that's the best part, and it can also be challenging. Would you say that the customer service and working with people is the most challenging part of your job, or are there other things that you would be like, oh, this is?
It can be specifically the hardest part of our job. The hardest part of a job, and it's a constant hurdle that we have to jump almost every event. We deal with, or we have to deal with, stories of people that unfortunately were taken advantage of or fell into a sales trap with what we call third-party resellers. In olden days called scalpers, people that literally stand out front of the box office in the, years ago. This still happens sometimes, but standing out front trying to sell tickets. With more sales and things happening over the internet, it does become a lot easier for people to put up advertisements of Hult Center tickets and be charging 2 or 3 times what the face value of that ticket is. And in some cases, they actually put those advertisements out there before they even hold the tickets in their hands. So
Wow.
Collect the money from a patron and then go and buy the cheapest seats they can from the Hult Center. So it's always devastating, when they come up to us and they say, hey, I paid $300 for this ticket, but it only says $50 on the ticket. So
No.
difficult conversation for us to have first, to convince them and try and help them understand that they actually didn't buy the ticket from us. They bought it from somebody else. And it's heartbreaking, because sometimes with those tickets, sometimes they get a confirmation from this reseller, but the reseller sold them something that was sold out, or tickets were not available. And so they never follow up to get those tickets to the person. And so they show up. We had it for Lion King. We had people show up and expecting their tickets to be at will call, and unfortunately they were not. They never had tickets actually delivered to them because the person never had them.
Oh, that's so hard.
Yeah, so understandably, people are very upset when you have that conversation with them, and we have to deal with the brunt of that. And again, it's difficult because I can't even say, yep, I'll refund your money. You didn't get your tickets, because we never collected their money. We don't have anything to give back to them. So that's in terms of the shows and everything, that's the most difficult. So like a PSA for anybody watching this: be very, very careful of who you buy from online. Some big red flags is if they don't give you a seat assignment when you're looking online. If they say, we'll get you a seat between row A and row Z, or somewhere on the orchestra, it's a reseller. They are required to put on their website, they put it in the fine print, that they are not affiliated with the theater, and that ticket price is maybe higher than the face value. And they always do. It's always there, but you can very easily miss it.
Yeah. Oh, that's so hard. That's really good to know, and kind of keep an eye on it, because it's not just us. It's like
Yes,
any venue.
it happens all around the country. And, we had one last story for that. We had Les Mis, Les Miserables, Broadway show that was supposed to take place this past April. And of course, everything was canceled around that time. It originally got rescheduled to occur this coming July. But only a couple of months later, the tour completely canceled. So we were really, really close to having that show, a whole week long of shows. So there were tons of tickets that were out there that had been purchased, and then unfortunately had to cancel everything. And that happened way back in June. And if you Googled right now, there are still a couple of resellers that are selling tickets to Les Mis, which was canceled 7 months ago.
Wow.
So you have to be very, very careful who you buy from. That's just one little example of how you can fall into a trap from the venue.
That is so, that's so hard to have to deal with that. Like, especially like we've said, like people save up for these like grand experiences, and then to have to kind of deal with something that's like totally out of your control. And I think that that's what makes it probably even more difficult, because you're like, can't do
Yeah,
anything.
it's hard.
That's hard.
We can't solve it for them. We try, we will always try. And unfortunately, the solution is I can sell you other tickets. I can, I can sell you tickets to the show.
And then they can try to get their money back if
They
possible.
can try, yeah.
Yeah. It's so hard, but good to know.
Yes.
Because I feel like it's so easy to kind of slip into that, and because they make the sites look so legit and professional. And
they do, and some of them are, really good at what they do. They don't want to have to refund your money. They want to. They're going to do everything to keep your money. So they are professional in most cases. But yeah, you're gonna spend $100, $200 more than you should.
That's crazy. Well, that's really helpful to know. And yeah, that does seem like a really, again, it comes back to your people skills and being able to like solve issues like that to the best of your abilities, which is very impressive. So Adam, you talked about so you're the director of ticketing services, and you have assistant ticket office manager, and then you have your box office staff. Can you give us an idea what the average salary is for maybe each of those positions, to kind of get an idea? Because I know I imagine that you can work your way up if you start as a box office. And so if you not like specific, but just like a broad overview would be helpful.
Yeah, sure. So it is different for every theater. Of course, it is different depending on the size of the theater, what type of theater it is, the level, the number of events and workload that comes with it. Our box office here, the box office specialists are AFSCME union represented and employees of the city. So they do make a decent wage. I believe the beginning is somewhere between $18 and $20 an hour. And that does come with insurance and benefits as well. They are full-time, but they are a full position. They're not full-time in the sense of 40 hours, if you will.
Yes.
So they're very well taken care of as far as box office specialists. And of course they earn it. They totally deserve it. We do have temporary staff as well. Sometimes in the past, it's actually been a couple of ushers that we've trained to sell tickets that can just come in as needed for a couple of extra hours. They are not union represented. They are just kind of coming in to help fill when we have a major on sale or something big, so that the staff gets a break every now and then again. Assistant box office manager can come in anywhere between 40 and 50, mid 50s, depending on experience. Depending on experience and number of years, they can work that salary range up. And then for box office management or director of ticketing services, again, can span anywhere depending on the theater itself, from that 40 up to the mid to upper 70s.
Yeah, I know it is always hard because it's like Eugene versus like New York City or something. It's going to vary greatly, but that is really helpful to know kind of the different positions within your world and what their earning potential is. And so I guess my next question is like, how does one get started in this career? Like, is it something that you need a degree before? Can you work your way up? Do people traditionally start off as like a box office specialist and then move up, or kind of what skills does one need to have in order to get started in this field?
Well, we talked a little bit about it before. The passion for the arts is always needed, not just because that's what's needed to give somebody a job, but to commit yourself to the schedules that we do here at the theater. If you're not fulfilled with that work, it can burn you out very, very fast. So it's great when you think that we get to have that interaction with the public and be here for these amazing performances that the Hult Center does. Doesn't always feel like work. So But you have to have that passion and that fulfillment from doing these shows. Otherwise, yes, it can burn you out with the number of hours that we put in. And I'd say both situations of working your way up and needing a degree. If you talk about looking at job postings that are out there right now for anywhere in the arts, or really anywhere, but when you look specifically for arts and box office, they do a lot of job applications will put as a requirement a college degree or a bachelor's of something. And truly that is just to open the door. It doesn't even really necessarily matter what your degree was in, but just they do require that you have that there. So to start fresh somewhere, to jump right in most cases, it is going to be a requirement of that job. But we hear
that a lot of times positions, and not even just in the arts, like to have a degree requirement is mostly just and what I've been told too is that it's mostly just to show that you can complete something like that. So it's like
yes.
Even an associate's degree or some sort of indicating that you can complete something. It's
like, yeah, you can commit to completing, following through with something that you've worked really hard for. Yeah, absolutely. I would say that's completely true. That definitely illustrates commitment and follow through to complete something that you've done. But we also hear, there's so many stories I could tell you of people who started as volunteer ushers, and then, they were so good at their job and they just were recognized as really strong employees or volunteers that then became paid ushers, to head ushers, to moving into the box office, moving up in the box office. There's always opportunities to do that. And a lot of theaters will look at their existing staff, their existing employees, if there's a way for us to invest in someone that's already here, that knows and is invested in our organization. That's always a plus. I believe actually one of the last general managers of the Hult Center started out as a volunteer usher. I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure that's true.
We'll go with it. No,
so
that's
it's possible, in other words.
And that makes a lot of sense, right? Like you said, you have to have a passion for it, especially because, like you've described, your schedule is very full and there's a lot going on. But also, and what I find really fascinating and something I personally just didn't think about was the idea of like how building a show, like you have to be familiar with all the different types of performances and have an understanding and to have an appreciation for the arts. That's, that seems like that's the biggest requirement.
Yeah, understanding for the show, what it's going to what it's going to look like, what it's going to be, that experience, and how that's going to reflect on the 2,500 seats in that space or the 500 seats in the soaring.
So you kind of went through the different career pathways. Can somebody get started like in high school? Like I know when I talked to Louise, our front of house manager, she talked about like high school students can be ushers, or is there, I don't know about the Hult Center, but in general, like do you ever see ticket office specialists or temp workers or anything that could be?
Again, it depends on the box office. Anywhere that there's always theaters in cities, even movie theaters, concession stands, things like that you can get into at a younger age. It still gives you that experience in being involved in the arts. Ticket offices that deal with the level of events and number of sales that we do does tend to be somebody with a little bit more experience. One, just because we deal with a lot of people's personal information, contact information, and payment information. So generally in the box office, I haven't experienced having that availability for someone in high school. It's not to say that that's impossible or that we wouldn't consider it. But there's always opportunities in a theater setting for high school to jump into, for sure.
Absolutely. And like you said, it's transferable, like learning if you become an usher, work with the concessions and stuff.
Yeah.
So
Having that anywhere that you can get like the cash handling experience.
And the customer service experience.
Yes, exactly.
I say it all the time because I don't know how you guys do it. It's really hard. It's hard dealing with like all sorts of different people. So
right.
It's like a talent for sure. So what was your personal pathway? You talked about working at other venues. So kind of, can you walk us through how you got to where you are today?
How did I get here? How did I get here indeed? So I always had, a natural passion for the arts. In high school, I was involved in every single, music opportunity and acting opportunity that was available. So I always knew that was going to be a part of my life. So going into college, I actually went to college and majored in music education. Just knowing that was going to be, kind of the next pathway, the career path. I wanted to experience that and still be just completely enveloped in that art form. And while I was working, in college, I had a part-time job working for the theater that was there on campus. And it was just kind of a job that a lot of music majors did. And it was for the major performing arts venue for that city. Luckily, it was right on campus. It was on the campus of the college, but it was a 3,500 seat venue. So all of the major Broadway shows, the symphony, there's just these major events that would come through town. We got to work them, and it worked out really nice as a student to still be able to commit to classes and the college degree. That's number one, but to be able to fit and sign up to work for shows as the schedule fell that fit into my schedule. So that, again, it was just meant to be a part-time job and something that was really fun to do. And I got more and more excited about doing it and kind of realizing that music education, while I enjoyed teaching, I enjoyed doing that, I didn't have the same passion for it that I did for working at the theater. So I kind of started pursuing other opportunities to do more business management, arts management, the more business side of arts. Finishing my degree, like I said, committing to finishing that music degree, but looking for every opportunity in the School of Music to work for the music department. I became president of one of our student organizations just because I loved to plan things. I love to bring in speakers. I love to put schedules and things together. So I kind of looked for every opportunity that I could while I was finishing my education degree. And then after graduating, I kept my job at that performing center. I did an internship with the symphony and just with my boss, she became a great mentor for me and gave me positions in the admin office. Again, they were all just part-time, but any opportunity that she could give me to let me experience different pieces just added to my experience. When we talk about your degree or having that degree, that's one line on your. So I had this one line, and then I looked at everything else that I had done that had prepared me for actually becoming, a candidate for a position in the future. And it was because of that job and actually that mentor who sent me a job that said, hey, this theater's hiring, you should apply. And I did, and got a full-time position for another theater on the other side of the state, and ended up working there for about 10 years before moving here to Eugene to take on a new role.
That's awesome. And I really like and appreciate that comment you made about your degree, or it, like for other people could be a job or whatever, is just one line And I think like in all these conversations I've been having with people at the Hult Center, or I talked with Francesco at the Eugene Symphony, like everybody has a unique path, and like it doesn't, like if you have a position or a degree in a certain thing, that doesn't hold you to whatever that was. And so it's just a really, I think, important thing to remember. And like especially for any high school or college age students watching this, like, or even after, I mean, like
Even
I've changed my
after,
career so many times.
and that's
Yeah.
something that I wish somebody would have told me when I was graduating high school. When you're graduating high school and you're thinking about college, or not college,
Or not.
there's just this pressure to kind of feel like you have to have the rest of your life figured out when you're 18. That's ridiculous. And it's okay even to pick a major and go to college, and it's okay if that major changes. I didn't change my major because there wasn't an arts administration kind of degree or focus that I could shift into. Otherwise, I absolutely would have. But it's okay you want to get everything that you can out of college, and that may mean you branch off from what your path is or your major is, and that shouldn't come with such a negative image.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think about that a lot, and I think it's really important, like even after, like you said, even if you don't go to college or after college, like I think it's something that's ingrained, but kind of following the things that are interesting you at the time, it can lead you, to where you're supposed to be.
Right.
So it's really interesting to hear that like, and I've been finding with these conversations that most people that work at the Hult have a passion for the arts, but that a lot of people have kind of bounced around, because a lot of times you don't know what positions there are in the arts. Like I know personally, I was like, there's actors and director. I know you just like don't think about all of these other roles that are play such an important part in putting together a whole performance or piece.
Right. Yeah. Like when I went to college, when I was in college, wanting to be a part of the arts, there was music education or music performance, and those were kind of the two options that you had. And there's so much more. There's a spectrum of what you can do in the performing arts, and still be connected to if you wanted to teach, or if you want to perform on the side. I went and sang in some professional choirs. I sang in community organizations when I could. So it's good to still have that piece of your life, but you can make a career out of your passion in so many different ways. It's not the same for everybody.
That is really helpful to hear. And I love hearing that you still get to perform, because I think that sometimes that's another thing that people think, oh, well, I guess I got to have a traditional job or something.
No,
you can do everything.
It is difficult sometimes to work in a performing arts center and try and participate in the organization that's performing at the center, because you feel like you should be working that event. One of the highlights just before we shut down last November, or a year ago, this past November, was singing with the Eugene Symphony Orchestra, and just this chorus, this magnificent chorus, and this brilliant professional symphony. To be able to be a part of that. I hadn't participated in anything here since I had moved, and so that was kind of the first opportunity to just get back into it. And it was very difficult to be like, okay, I'm here, I don't have to work, the staff can handle it, they're in good hands. But it did take a little bit of letting go and just being in the moment. But yes, that was definitely a highlight.
Well, they have a good leader, so
go on.
No, but that's I really I'm glad that you brought this up, that you talked about, because I think that's just really special and so important. Like no matter what field you're in, to still do those kinds of the things that bring you joy and stuff. So
yeah.
So if anyone has any questions, feel free to add them to the chat. Okay, we have one. It says, it sounds like this job in normal times is a huge social customer service aspect. How have you or your staff been able to deal with not having people in your venue? Have you still been able to make meaningful connections with customers during this time?
Oh, such a good question. We shut down the lobby here, obviously, shortly, we're almost coming up on a year anniversary.
The 12th, right?
Right around the 12th, yes. It was that weekend. I think we finished out the week. And then when we started again the next week, we were closed. So it has been very difficult, and we miss it so much, but we do still have a lot of communication with our patrons over the phone. So we do have conversations with them. Shortly after the 12th, when everything was kind of shut down, obviously there was for several months after that was so much communicating with our patrons about this event being rescheduled to here, this event being canceled, here are your options, you'll be automatically refunded, you can make a donation with your tickets. Every single show had something different. There were well over 50 shows that we had to handle and do something with that were planned for the books. So we kind of go through waves of having those busy moments with communicating with our patrons where things got rescheduled, and we thought, yeah, July of 2020, that's plenty of time. We'll be ready to do stuff again by then. And
remember those days.
yes, how naive we were. And so then things get rescheduled again. So we've had things that have been rescheduled 2 or 3 times now. The things that have gone on sale and then had to cancel. It kind of never ends as far as that's concerned. We do have to look at it kind of under a different lens. We do have to work a little harder to find those positive moments, that glimmer, that we love about communicating with our patrons. Because when we do call them now, it's usually bad news. It's usually, the performance you had has been canceled. But we always take that opportunity to check in with our patrons. It's an opportunity to let them know that we are still here, and that we're going to be here after the show. And it's always great for them to, they always say, we miss you, we'll be back. We can't wait to come back to the Hult Center. So yeah, we certainly miss it, but we do still find those little moments to connect with our patrons.
That's good. And then, like you said, even if it's like a somewhat negative call to have to cancel or reschedule, it's good that you still get to have those connections and check in with people.
It's no longer a surprise anymore. Let's say, like 3 months after, sure, there was still, an expectation that something was on the show, but after 7 months into it and calling people, that it's no longer a surprise.
Yeah. It'll be when it's actually happening, people will be happily surprised.
Right.
And so, this next question was one that I actually had too. What have been some of your favorite performances, and also what's the most rewarding part about being able to be a part of the patrons show experience?
Oh, favorite show. That's so hard. That's so
well, like maybe not even like a favorite like specific performance, but like is there like a genre or something that you just love?
I mean, it always depends. Depending on the show. Broadway's always exciting because it's such a huge production.
Yeah.
When Wicked came through, I had seen it before, but there's just something that's so magical about that whole story. I mean, just this different twist on the Wizard of Oz. But every time there were parts of the performance that at every show I had to go in and see. I had to go in and watch this part because it's just so cool. And you couldn't help but just, get super excited about it. And you're feeding off of the excitement of everybody else that's in the room. That's the power of performing arts. But similarly, I think one of the coolest things that I've seen recently is recently, The Eugene Symphony has started doing performances of popular movies, the Star Wars movie, and started with Hult Presents, started doing Harry Potter as well, where they actually show the movie, the actual movie, but the soundtrack of the movie is stripped. So you're watching the actual movie, but just below the screen, a little bit in the dark, is the Eugene Symphony playing the actual score in real time to the movie. And there's something that's so cool about that.
So cool. Like,
so cool.
That's
so
awesome.
Those are some of my my favorite, in recent years memories. But every show that comes in, you get excited about something.
Especially because you like see the people that are excited to see it. So like even if it's maybe not your genre or your favorite thing, I'm sure just like seeing how happy people are, like that's gotta feel good. So I'm wondering, do you have any advice for anybody that's interested in going in this field, and like what you would suggest that they do now?
Going into this field? Yeah,
going into, like, if they're interested in doing ticketing at a venue, like if you have any suggestions.
Sure. I think in any position, anything that you're looking to get into, to be present in that community. So sometimes it does have to start out with volunteering. Sometimes it does have to start out by just giving of your time to show support for that community. Anytime networking, anytime that you can network and meet people that actually do work for that theater or work for that venue, or any place like that, is so important. You say in the arts world, it's a small world. They say that for performers, if you're not a strong performer, in the sense that nobody wants to work with you, if you have a bad attitude, if you show up late, if between two people that are equally talented, one that has a bad attitude, you're always going to pick this other person. So it's kind of the same thing in any job that you're going to go to as well. We say we can train you to do this task or that task, but we want to make sure that you have that right attitude, that right passion to actually to represent the organization the way that we want to represent that. So we like to see that you have an appreciation for the arts, specifically for the box office, and I think concessions too. We like to see cash handling experience, and just communication skills. There are times when in an interview, we'll ask a question and I'm less paying attention to what you're actually saying and what your actual answers are, and more about how you're answering that question, how you're speaking. Can you speak clearly? How do you handle being in an interview setting where there's that pressure to speak and to communicate properly? So any opportunity that you can get some of that experience will always help you in whatever job you go into. For box office as well, specifically, we use Microsoft Excel. So you're never going to do any box office that doesn't use some kind of computer software, some kind of computer program. So being able to use Excel spreadsheets, that's a lot of times what we do to come up with reports, to export data and share that data with our marketing team, with our promoters, so that everybody else makes their decisions for what to do with the show based on what the data is coming out of the box office. So being able to use those tools and have some kind of experience is always beneficial.
Awesome. No, that's really helpful. Just kind of thinking of all the different components that you can and things you can work on now is really helpful.
And I have one last thing to kind of say about that too. I've used this trick, and I'm totally going to give my trick away, but I've used this and I've seen other jobs use this as well. Give you something to do in the interview as like a task or something like that. And for us with cash handling, we would give you a bag of a bunch of bills to count. And generally it's just a simple task of go ahead and count this up and let me know the number you come up with. Or I'm going to buy something from you and give me the correct change. It's always easy for people to count the money or to give the correct change. But another piece that we always do is we usually mix up all the dollars or face them, differently. Just, it's a big mess when we give it to you. So seeing if you're going to take the time to organize that or put the bills all facing the same way shows a level of, making sure that you're committed to, what's the word I'm looking for now?
Accuracy?
Attention to detail. Attention
Yeah.
to detail is a little extra piece that we're kind of watching for. Doesn't mean that if you don't do that, that you're not qualified or that you can't do it. But usually if there's a task that's given to you, we always just want to see how you're going to handle that task.
That is really helpful. I would never have thought, but it makes so much sense that you would do something like that in an interview, but that's extremely helpful information. So
yeah, I mean, like math skills, it shows that you can count out the change. You can do that in your head, but it's just those little pieces, attention to detail, that really kind of separates them from everybody else.
Yeah, that's so helpful. Well, I think that those are all the questions. So if you have anything else to add, I think if you think of any other great pieces of wisdom, but otherwise, this was really awesome. And thank you so much for doing this interview. It was really helpful to hear.
No, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. It's so much fun to do this and to be able to share my experience. Like I said, anybody that's interested in going into any part of the arts, always look for someone who's already doing it and ask, take them out for coffee or ask if you can meet for something. We all are just a little bit pieces of artists. We love to talk about ourselves. Let's just put that out there. We love to share and talk about, what our experience has been. So it never hurts to get connected with somebody who can help be a mentor for you, or even give a little advice.
Oh, that's awesome advice. So thank you so much, Adam. And this will be on our YouTube. We have a Careers in the Arts series on there under the Hult Center. So the recording will be up there. But thank you. I really appreciate it. And I hope you have a great rest of your afternoon.
Thanks, Jen. You too.
Okay. Bye.